So the first technique that you need to master is creating the traditional coil. Now, it might look easy, but it takes a lot of practice to get this right, and you really need to pay attention to what you're doing in order for it to have a nice even width and be nice and smooth. So you're going to need to take enough clay for you to kind of start off with a sort of thick coil like this. It's not going to be perfect at this point. You still have to do some rolling with your hands. So what you're going to do at this point is you're going to roll it from your fingertips all the way to the palm of your hand. And that way it'll touch all the curves of your hand and stretch out evenly. What you're going to notice sometimes is the middle might be a little thicker and the ends might be a little thinner, or vice versa. So in order for it to be a little bit more even, you're going to have to just concentrate your hand over the areas that need to be thinned out. Just like that. Let's try that again. Start off with a chunk of clay, work it into your hand, create an almost like sausage-like shape so it's easier to start rolling with. And if it's a small piece, you can get away with doing it with one hand, but I like to do two hands because as it's stretching, you can spread it out even more. All right, so I don't know if you're noticing, but this is getting really bumpy. It's like do 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 do. Okay, if that happens, you can twist the ends in opposite corners, but not too hard so you're not ripping it. But kind of spiral it out, and that'll even the surface area that is making contact with your hand and the board, and it should roll a little easier and smooth out. If your coil starts to crack in the middle, you can just break that piece off, continue rolling out each of the halves in order to save your work, and then you could use each piece in different designs that you might want to use. Your best bet is to be consistent with the thickness that you're using. My suggestion is to make it about the thickness of your pinky or a little thinner, but not too thin, because if it's too thin it'll dry out really fast and it can crack. Let me give you an example of that. Okay, so this right here is a little bit too thin. If you can work fast enough to use it, that's great, but I feel like it just is too weak at this point, and really you'll be running into more troubles than anything, and plus it'll take longer for you to finish your work because you're working with smaller pieces. So I would say about the thickness of like a pencil or your pinky, and just make sure every single coil you roll out is consistent in thickness. That way the bowl that you end up making, or whatever it is that you end up making, is all the same thickness.